on. Thank you, thank you. So thanks for joining us for another episode of Fireside Chats with Dr. Heidkamp. I'm Dr. Graves, and we're coming to you live from my living room. I'm actually in my den, but I have a picture of my living room as my background. That's why I don't have a mask on, but I will be going back in there in a minute. So today, Dr. Axon, a sustainability scientist in our department, will be joining us, along with one of our environmental systems and sustainability students, Liza Fresinelli. I hope I pronounced that correct. Before we begin, I'd like to remind those watching again, please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras during the stream so that we can clearly see our speakers. But before we begin, I'd like to recognize some of our 2020 graduates who unfortunately had an unceremonious end to their collegiate career. Dr. Heidkamp will be honoring them today. Do you want me to read these out, Jana? Okay, anyway. Okay, so I think I'm going to turn it over to Jana in the other room. And thank you, thank you.
So we're here now, it's got all done. Okay, everybody, welcome to the second edition of Fireside Chat with me. We've got Dr. Axon here today, but we first want to, as Scott mentioned, highlight some students from last year, because we obviously didn't have a graduation ceremony and we didn't have an event that we could hold in the department because of COVID-19. So we weren't able to give out our annual student awards. So last year we had 2 students receiving awards, departmental awards. It was Lauren Brideau, who was our outstanding graduate in the Environmental System and Sustainability Studies major. And Lauren finished last year, is now working for us as a university assistant, and actually just got accepted to University of Virginia for a full ride for a PhD program in marine science. So congratulations to Laura, not only for winning our award, but also for the graduate school appointment. The other student is Nicole Gigas, and she received an award from as the outstanding student in the Bachelor of Science in Geography, and she's now working for a Perry and Water company, gainfully employed, so we're proud of her as well. And I want to show the students that don't know this, we do have pretty cool awards. We have our Outstanding Student Awards. This one is the one for Nicole Gigas, Outstanding Bachelor of Science in Geography student. She got her degree in BS with Geography and GIS. And that's what you'll be receiving, Nicole, in the mail soon. Lauren, I was able to give her belt buckle award in person just a few weeks back. Okay, now here is Dr. Axon, and most of you on the screen probably know Dr. Axon is teaching some of our introductory sustainability classes or people, places, environment. Welcome to Fireside Chats. How are you doing?
Well, I'm just literally just trying to remain stable, because this chair is definitely not stable. So I'm definitely a metaphor for probably how I deal with our interactions.
It's a rocking chair.
It's stylish. It's definitely, I don't know how stylish this is.
I think we had a discussion about this last time. It's an Eames rocking chair, and it's one of Scott's prized possessions.
I'm delighted to be sitting in your prized possession, Scott.
So what we're going to try to do here in the next few minutes is just kind of catch up on things that you've been doing. You've obviously been quite involved, and obviously a couple of things that we want to highlight that are going on in the department. And one of the things that I've known about and we've talked about, but maybe the students don't know about, only the ones in the graduate school and the graduate class right now, is the tiny house project that you work on. So tell us about the tiny house project.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really interested in is sustainable lifestyles. And one part of sustainable lifestyles, we can live sustainable lifestyles in very many different ways. We can live very simply, we can live a slow lifestyle, or we could live a very small lifestyle. And one of the things that's quite fascinating about small lifestyles, one of the ways to do that is to live in a tiny house, or to downsize your possessions. So one of the things that I like to do is I like my research to be quite applied and quite practical. So I decided that one of the things that I would really like to do is to build a tiny house. and to use this as an exemplar of the types of small and slow lifestyles that more Americans could potentially move towards.
Quick question before you get too far. Will the tiny house have coffee in it?
The tiny house
Will there be a coffee maker
definitely.
in it?
For you, it will have coffee, and for me, it'll have tea because I'm British. But I drink more coffee now than tea because I've been around you too much.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I only put that because I wasn't sure if Scott was making coffee. So for everybody, why you were wondering why I was looking angrily to the side.
The service
Because
is
it's
slow
Friday
today.
morning and the coffee has been not flowing.
That was a smooth segue, very smooth segue. So basically, our service is not.
So tiny house. So in terms of the projects, obviously it's a terrific idea. How you envision this progressing?
Yeah, so constructing a tiny house, it takes time. It cannot be done in a short amount of time unless you have, like proper construction experts and you've got like plumbing experts, etc. on board. My idea of a tiny house is to see how we can make tiny houses more feasible, more reliable, and more valuable for everyday people who do not have a construction degree, they're not construction expert, but to see how practical and how feasible that would be for people who like leave our degrees or people who are doing or other students, something that is quite practical because the average cost of a tiny house is between $10,000 to $40,000 for construction and just building. So that's obviously a massive difference between you actually saving money for a mortgage. So I see this as a project that would take probably about up to well over a year and a half to 2 years. And I think that would be sufficient for different groups of students to work on this project, but also to test that project as well, to see how feasible it is to design, to construct, and then test a tiny house, and to see how that one would work in reality.
So if I'm a student and I would want to get involved in the project, one of the things I could think of is, okay, I now know this is a multi-year project, but I'm only going to be at Southern for another year. Why would it still make sense for students to get involved in the project, even though they might not see the full, because that's the thing with long-term projects, and we have that with research projects sometimes. How does a student, what does a student get out of it who might be only to take part in the project for a semester?
Yeah, that's a good question. So part of that is, you get a really good understanding of an alternative lifestyle that is not based on consumerism and materialism. The whole point of a small lifestyle is that it's focused on downsizing and it's also focused on living within your means. And people do not need houses that are, 1,800 square feet if they're just living on their own. The pandemic has really heightened more people living on their own, but also bigger houses.
Did you pick the 1,800 square feet for a particular reason?
Not because Dr. Graves lives in
Not because Dr. Graves' house is. Matter of fact, 1,800 square feet is actually a reasonably small house in the US.
It's reasonably small in the US. However, in other European countries, 1,800, it's actually pretty big. The average size house in the United States is 2,400 square feet. Now, more people are living on their own. The pandemic has heightened, that more people want to live on their own. But despite the fact that more people are living on their own and those houses are getting bigger, that means that people have a larger carbon footprint, a larger environmental footprint. Tiny houses are one way in which that you could actually bring people into a more alternative lifestyle that's more sustainable, it's less based on consumption and less based on materials. And that's what you would get out of joining that project. But the other part of it is that you get skills development. And one thing that I really like to do in my classes and my research is that it's not just conceptual, but it's going to be practical and it's going to be applied. And that's a bit that sustainability degrees in many universities don't have, is the practicality dimension. Now I think we're quite unique in our degree programs and our offerings because we do practical and applied research. So the benefits that you would get out of actually doing and participating in a tiny house project, whether you do the summer class, which is EMB 398 or EBS 598, or you do the sustainability and public engagement class, GA4, or even another master's class. The best part of this is that you would actually get to work on that project. You'd be implementing designs that other students have done and actually taking that forward. And that's going to be a collective community project because sustainability, as we know, cannot be achieved individually. It has to be achieved collectively. So this is all about building community and getting something out of it for a good environmental sustainability purpose.
No, I think it's obviously a really interesting project. I mean, I liked it from the start. I mean, I approved it. That's kind of how this works. But there's obviously another really important dimension there, and the policy piece. Because it's one thing if we have, tiny homes and the idea of small living, but you also might, we're now in Guildford, Connecticut, and we have zoning laws that are, in the area I live in, where it's a minimum of 1 acre property. So you have exclusionary zoning laws that, might not allow for the tiny house. So there's actually a fairly significant policy piece that can be brought into those classes. And I think the more people we get interested in projects like that, we could actually change policy, or at least facilitate a discussion in the policy realm that it would allow for tiny homes to be constructed somewhere. Right now, I think the loophole, from what I understand, I'm by no means an expert of tiny house, besides might be looking at whatever is on Netflix about tiny houses, is the idea of, right now, if you put it as a mobile structure, you can basically kind of circumnavigate zoning laws, but that's a short-term solution, in my view.
Yeah.
What's your kind of take on that? I mean, you're still reasonably new to the U.S. policy concept.
Absolutely. So the difficulty is we're buying two different state policies, is that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And that's a difficult thing to really try to circumvent, because obviously when people outside of Connecticut will also do projects. Because we can use the townhouse project at Southern as an exemplar of other universities, maybe other communities or other organizations that might want to use it for environmental, social, climate justice purposes. And that will be a really good practical application for tiny homes. The policy piece really becomes quite interesting, because there's a massive gap of understanding about what tiny homes are, also where they can be located, and also what their needs are, and where they can be placed either temporarily or maybe even permanently. If you have them, if you have a mobile tiny house, that is definitely going to be able to circumvent some of those policies. But if it's fixed in place, that becomes a little bit more difficult because of zoning laws in different communities.
So how far along is the project at this point? You started this semester, and we're obviously still in, under reduced capacity conditions in terms of getting our hands dirty. That actually fits with the topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, so actually that's a really good question, because right now, my master's class of the environmental research class, they're in the process of designing the tiny house. And what it is that they're going to be looking at, having the particular roles and responsibilities in terms of the design, in terms of identifying materials, where we're going to get those materials from, also communication aspects and who to network with, and basically just where we're going to find resources. Now, resources is not just financial. Those resources are going to be time, it might be labor. It might also just be trying to engage with other people to bring them on board so that we can get approvals, or we can get other kind of resources for in-kind financial elements, or whether we just get more people on board to get a much more awareness of alternative lifestyles. So right now in the design process, and my master's students at the moment are identifying those roles and responsibilities, and then by the end of the semester, we're hoping to have a blueprint and a good proposal that we can actually identify how much money it would cost, as well as how much time it will take to actually build the tiny house. So we're at a really cool place right now. And because this is a bottom-up community-led effort, the best part about this is that there are going to be multiple students who are going to be involved in this. And that means that we're going to have some really fun times. I think we've actually generated a good project.
So you're still pretty early in the project conception phase, moving it along. So there's definitely room for students to get involved. What would be the best way for students, for our students on campus, to get involved at this point?
Yeah, so if you want to get involved, definitely reach out to me, send me an email. You can get involved for this as part of a class. So if you want to participate in this for credit, you can participate in a special topics class over the summer where we're going to start to build the tiny house. And that's going to be EMB 398 or EVE 598. And that's going to be based on the beginnings of building and constructing the tiny house project. And then in the fall semester, we're going to have a public engagement class. But also, if you wanted to do some research around tiny homes, because We can do practical and applied research, but also we can do the more conceptual stuff. So if anyone's interested in doing any research on sustainable lifestyles, particularly on small or slow living, I'd encourage you to get in touch with me. I definitely encourage that we have a very open conversation on this, because there's a lot of like really interesting things around it, and it's not the stereotypical boring research project where you can go out and collect questionnaires and like all the rest of it. You can actually do something quite fun, quite meaningful.
And it's open for every type of student, freshman all the way through graduate student.
So you can be a freshman, you can be a master's student, you don't even have to be a doctor or environmental student, sustainability studies student. You can be any student that you like, but there is a lot of like really fascinating opportunities for geographers and environmental sustainability students to get involved in this project, and particularly to do some like research alongside it as well would be really quite cool.
So lots of opportunities. Okay, so I just heard the coffee making noises, which means our segment is coming close to an end. Let me ask you, how are you doing? I mean, for some of you, Stephen's been here in the U.S. now. Is this your third?
This is my third year.
How do you like living in the U.S.?
I actually really love it. I mean, I'd love it a little bit more if I had a more stable chair and a cup of coffee.
For everybody who doesn't know Stephen, he is from the United Kingdom, which if we would have our walking map operational today, we could show you where the United Kingdom.
Actually, I do have a small scale map here.
That small scale map.
Don't say it.
Doesn't have Italy.
Oh, you were going to say that. So yeah, as you can probably see, the United Kingdom is just here. So
that's our geography lesson for today.
Yeah, I'm just going to hide behind this.
The first one.
This is I think how all cameras should treat me. It's like behind a map, I think.
Excellent. So wonderful. So I guess right now it's still stay here. You don't have to leave your chair yet because you still have to work with social distancing and everything. But I think it's time to check the reader mail from the.
We're going to get the mail.
Dana is telling me that we're a production director. I don't know what that's called. Is telling me about the mail. So we got mail.
I think potentially you should read this out like a different accent.
It says, Lieber Herr Professor Dr. Heitkamp. Last week, you talked about courses you could take this summer in lieu of the study abroad trip to Iceland. What are those? This is from Günther from Berlin, apparently. Well, if I would know it at the top of my head, but Scott couldn't figure out how to print out the schedule because his printer doesn't work. But we're offering a couple of things this summer. We have a special topics that Stephen already talked about, was the tiny house project. Apparently we got organic roasted teriyaki seaweed snack on the schedule. I'm not 100% sure how that ended up here, but I think this is supposed to give me a summer schedule. What we actually do have, we're going to be offering a number of courses to get you along in your major. So we're going to be offering things that are part of the LEP, Environmental 220, Global Climate Change. We do have the E&D course, the Tiny House Project. That's hands-on, so that could, move you along in your directed study component in your degree. We have Geo 100, Sustainability in America. We have Geo 200, Human Geography, 201, Physical Geography. There are both courses that are in your liberal education program. We're going to be offering Environmental Economic Geography, which I usually offer in Iceland, on the ground in the US this year. It's a double-year course. It fits that same category, and we'll make it fit in your degree evaluation. That's going to be dual listed with the graduate component of that, because a lot of the graduate students actually ask what they can do this summer. We offer Geo 400, the geography of wine. So if you are over 21, you can sign up for that. That's a fun course. Did you ever take that, Dana?
I did.
Did you like it?
I did. I liked it a lot. We went to someplace in Guilford, some wine bar in Guilford for my birthday.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Are you going to take me to a wine bar for my birthday?
It was technically class. I had
My
homework.
birthday in summer.
We offer MAR 140 and MAR 398. The 398 is linked to Project Blue, and we talked a little bit about Project Blue last year, not last year, last Fireside Chat. And then in terms of the graduate program, we offer EDE 533, which is Economics and Environmental Concerns. And we're offering the analytic course. Dr. Breslin is teaching that. It's EDE 537, and then the grad portion of the Tiny House Project. So that's what we got for the summer schedule. What else do we have in terms of mail? We got a frog. I don't know what the frog is for. We are near Scott's Frog Pond.
That's
so
our new departmental mascot.
Snug in there somehow. And then we got mail from Phil from Brantford. Help, I'm very confused. I don't see the Iceland study abroad on the degree evaluation. How does it fit in? Any type of special thing that we do, if it's the Iceland study abroad, if it is the South Africa study abroad, if it's the tiny home project, whatever it might be, we will find a space in your degree evaluation so you don't get slowed down in terms of your quest to degree completion. So we generally are able to substitute a course that would be on your degree evaluation for what we're actually offering, because some of them are topical things, some of them are international things that may or may not run. So we are very flexible in that. So don't ever worry that it might not fit your degree evaluation. We will make that work.
I like how you said it was a quest.
It's a quest.
A quest.
It's all a
to
quest.
complete your degree evaluation.
And then there's another one that says,
Oh, hang on. We
got our coffee. So before we read the last letter, let's have our coffee break, because it is time for that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Grace.
So we're going to take our mask off halfway for that at least.
Halfway mask off.
What do you think about this coffee, Stephen?
It's hot. And it's nice.
Hot. So this, like last time, as you remember, we had a coffee from Africa, from the origin country of Africa. So we're going to bring in a little bit of geography here. This one, and with the theme of today's fireside chat being sustainability, I brought a coffee that is a shade-grown coffee. There's a shade-grown coffee label on it. That means it's grown in an agroforestry system, which has sustainability benefits. And if you are interested in coffee, take a class that I teach. You hear a lot about it all the time when I teach any class, even if it's not related. I teach marine studies, there'll be a lecture on coffee. I'll figure somehow how to put it in.
Is this going to be like a new thing, like coffee at the coast?
Coffee at the coast. This is the Blue State coffee. It's a state by the coast. It all mixed together. Now, this coffee is from Central America.
Oh.
And it's actually a blend from Guatemalan beans and Costa Rican beans. And for our geography challenged people, Dr. Axel,
sorry, I was
point that out.
You're just like looking at me like.
Point that out. Where's Guatemala exactly?
Over here.
Can you point to
No,
Guatemala?
I'm not going to point to it. Because I'm going to I'm not here to teach the map part, that's James. I'm just here to talk about.
No, I got Europe wrong last time, so I'm tagging out. I'm not that kind of geographer.
Well, it is obviously in Central America, a tropical region, rainforest grown coffee. It actually is quite nice. It is. I taste a little nuttiness actually in there.
I taste coffee.
Well, you're a tea drinker.
Not anymore.
And I think your tea was milk drinker. Oh, what I really wanted to say before we get to this now, the actual only question I truly had today was, so England has been in the news a bit lately. So what's your take on Meghan Markle?
Well, I think that Meghan definitely was always going to find it very difficult in that family. That family has a lot of challenges. I think in terms of the royal family, there's a lot.
It's a touchy subject for British people.
Obviously, a lot of conspiracy theories around Princess Diana, and I obviously understand how Prince Harry, obviously is very concerned for his family because he lost his mother, and that was actually quite tragic. Because a lot of British people actually have a lot of affinity with Princess Diana. And I think we all saw the warning signs, even before Meghan Markle was integrated into the royal family. I'm quite pro Meghan Markle because I like that she adds a distinctive kind of dimension of more humanity and a lot more kind of compassion, what is actually quite lacking. So I like Meghan Markle's part of the royal family, and I really am quite upset that the way that we've heard her being treated is actually something that is she's not supported very much as well. Nobody should ever be in a situation, whether it's a family or a business or a community, and they are unsupported and they are facing those kind of attacks on a regular basis. I think that's quite horrible.
Dana's telling us to wrap up, but
It's a little long.
I think that I watched the interview. Just stay. It's fine. We got time. Scott has an exam today, so I think he has a little more time. This might run 5 minutes longer today because we're up to date with the news here with Meghan Markle and everything.
And you can ask me
One of the things that I thought was interesting. One of the things that I think was interesting in looking at the interview, because I actually watched it, and I'm not usually somebody who watches that at all, but I watched it, and I think this, from my perspective, I was taken a little bit aback by Prince Harry telling the world how hard he had it growing up of being a prince. And I think he probably is going to get some backlash for that, I would imagine.
There are very much privileged elements here, and the fact that him and Prince William got like 13 million from Princess Diana, like 13 million split between two people, that's a fair amount of money. And to make it, I've just got like this money from my mom, who's like a millionaire, like goes to California. Well, it's actually, you can make a good life for yourself.
Yeah, I think there's multi sub stories in there that.
Well, I wouldn't mind if this turned out to be like a Netflix deal. I mean, maybe we could make a bang for a buck here.
This is not going to turn out. Mail was a fraud. I mean, come on. But I do have one last mail item here. It says, "Hey, hi Kim. I want to take Philosophy 242, Death and the Meaning of Life, and Art 216 Typography, but I can only take 12 credits. Will this affect my financial aid?" This is from Chad from North Haven. Yes, it will. We have new financial aid rules that have been handed down from the federal government. And it is advising season, so you should all make an appointment with your advisor. There's a significant change to the financial aid rules in that all the courses that you are taking, 12 credits, which makes you a full-time student and financial aid eligible, have to be courses that count on your degree evaluation. If you have already used up your free electives, for example, to meet prerequisites, Math 100P before you can take Math 107, or English 110 before you can take English 112, if that's still a thing. Okay. Those count as free electives, and they take away from the free electives that you have available. So if you are in that kind of population that has free electives used, and you want to take two courses, like those two in the letter here, that do not count towards your degree evaluation directly, you would be at risk of losing financial aid. So it's absolutely imperative this year to see your advisor early. Classes will fill up, and very often the way I've been advising students for quite a few years now, and the problem I foresee is that students that wait very long to register will just have to fill up their schedule. It used to be like, as long as you get 12 credits, at least you won't lose financial aid. Now that's not the case. So you need to see your advisor early, you need to make your schedule early, and you need to register early. And I know that this sometimes is difficult in terms of finances. But talk to financial aid, make sure you can register, make sure you're all set if you're if you have an issue paying for classes right away. But it's absolutely imperative this year to pay a bit more attention than last year on registering at the classes that you need. We will obviously help you out, but you need to come talk to us. We want to see you now rather than 2 weeks before the fall semester starts. So please don't wait too long. And now I would like to welcome our...
I do think that Philosophy 242 class is Death and the Meaning of Life.
Well, I think it is Death and the Meaning of Life.
I think you can always do like something a bit more cheerier, like, maybe a tiny house project.
You should do that anyways, but Death and the Meaning of Life, I can tell you that. You're gonna die That's just it.
And on that cheery note.
So on that note, I welcome Liza over here, and we're going to talk to you a little bit, because we're always going to highlight one of the students.
The audio cut out.
The audio cut out. Well, have a seat in the rocking chair. Do you like the rocking chair?
It's
Or you're a little bit uncomfortable? There's a little bit more coffee here. There's some coffee for you as well. So you're going to have to give your opinion on our coffee. By the way, Scott, we did forget to put on the song that goes along with the coffee.
Music on.
No.
Well, not now. Always a little late. But so what do you think of this coffee?
It's pretty good.
This coffee is from Guatemala and Costa Rica, which we might want to point out on the map one more time. Walking map. Where's the walking map?
Am I now the walking map?
Yes, this is. Do you think we actually hire somebody just to walk the map?
So I said,
Come on, Liza, where's Guatemala?
Guatemala is right there,
Excellent.
and Costa Rica is right. That's Puerto Rico.
No. It's actually right there where that Guatemala was.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, it's right there. So excellent. So we had our little geography lesson. I think that's the problem with the BS in sustainability studies, because we do lose a little bit of geographical knowledge in our curriculum. At least some of the basic things that people should be knowing, from high school, but that's just my opinion. No knock on you, that's all right, I put you on the spot.
We'll edit on that.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what your interests are in sustainability. You are a geography major, you have a BS, you're working towards your BS in GIS and T, and what are you kind of working on?
So right now I'm kind of working on a research proposal in my GO 290 research methods class on fast fashion and sustainability.
And that's taught by Dr. Axon?
Yes, it is taught by Dr. Axon. And so I don't have a huge background in sustainability, but it's definitely interesting, especially fashion-wise, because especially in college settings, fast fashion is really convenient for a lot of people, even though it's just horrible on the environment and on the communities where the clothing is actually made. So I just kind of wanted to do some research on why exactly fast fashion is so desirable, why students are deciding to not really make an environmentally friendly decision, but because of other reasons like it being cheap or trendy or whatever. And I just want to see if maybe those motivations can be found in a more sustainable option. Like, is there a sustainable option for college students that is cheap, that is trendy, that is comparable to fast fashion?
So let's backtrack a little bit, just for people that might not know. What's generally understood by fast fashion?
Generally, it is like fashion that is made quickly, usually overseas, with unsustainable fabrics like cotton or polyester, which is like a synthetic fabric. And it's just clothing that is not biodegradable. It doesn't last very long. It's not well made, and it doesn't hold together.
So it's about being trendy and also inexpensive very often.
Yeah, inexpensive.
So where would one buy fast fashion? What would be? I mean, it would all necessarily call out companies, but it's a learning experience. So where do people buy fast fashion, the stuff that's not sustainable?
There's a lot of the stores like in the shopping mall are actually not sustainable. They are fast fashion. A lot of department stores are fast fashion, and also online retailers is a really big emerging thing where people buy fast fashion from, like factories that are over in Bangladesh and India and China and places like that.
Bangladesh and India and China, where would that be on the map, given that we have a walking map around? Maybe.
Fired.
I think our walking map has been fired by our production
The walking map
assistant.
went out for a walk.
So we're talking which part of the world?
So most are found in China, which is right over here, and
Yep.
also Bangladesh, which
Yeah, you're
It's
right. Just
right
about
over
right.
there.
Yeah, perfect.
And
Excellent.
there's also an emerging market in Honduras, which is over there somewhere.
Yeah, actually, it's actually right next to where we were earlier. So there's a
Oh.
border between Guatemala and Honduras.
Yes.
So you'll be all set. So you redeemed your early.
Yeah,
Easily,
I know
no
those.
problem. You know, which obviously is, that's where it really matters that you know it. So if you start doing research on something, you need to know where it is. That's the most important part there. So you're working on fast fashion. Where did you get your interest on looking at that?
Well, I'm very interested in fashion, and I also like to make sustainable choices that can, benefit the earth. So I've been trying to make more decisions to buy secondhand or buy resale clothing or just buy clothing made from sustainable fabrics.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point because I think a lot of people, when they start thinking about sustainability and about fashion and then, about slow fashion, it's probably going to be more expensive. I'm on a college student budget. I can't really afford this. Can't buy an expensive tailored suit that lasts me 15 years. A Patagonia jacket or vest is really outside of my, minimum wage job that I support myself. And we have a lot of students that work all the time. So
Yeah.
that's obviously, I think, the point you'd like to address. Right?
Yeah, another part is, you can buy secondhand, but the other thing is donating your own clothing or giving your own clothing that you might not wear anymore to somebody else so it can get more use out of it instead of just going into the garbage where it will never see the light of day again. That's another part of it, knowing that you can make decisions like maybe you can't buy nice clothing all the time, but you can use your clothes so they can get more life and they don't turn into microplastics,
Okay, so in terms of the donating, you would suggest to rather give it to somebody you know, because I do happen to know that if you actually put it in some of the clothing bins, it might just get resold.
Yeah.
It might end up in, other parts of the world, and it actually has a fairly significant carbon footprint depending on where it ends up. So you have our old clothes from North America ending up in Africa or Southeast Asia or somewhere else, which is, complete weird cycle. Like it's produced in Bangladesh, we wear it for a while, then we give it away for free, and people in Bangladesh then have to buy it in their local stores, the stuff that we bought. So it's a weird kind of cycle.
Yeah.
And it's very, very geographical, and I'm not an expert on the textile industry by any stretch of the imagination, but there are obviously some really interesting tensions to look at and looking at the fashion industry. Now, with your research project, where would you like to where do you want to move with that?
I would like to do questionnaires at different college campuses across the state. I was thinking at Yale and at Southern, those are some pretty different demographics, like community-wise and social setting-wise. So I thought it would give some pretty different results. But then I also thought about extending my research to, other parts of the state, like over in Windham at Eastern Connecticut State or at UConn, because they do have very different populations of students with different backgrounds in secondhand clothing, or different incomes, different, shopping, consumer behavior. So I think it would be a good, sample size of all those.
Have you thought about, that's obviously a great and standard approach, but have you thought about if you could potentially create something or innovate in this space? Like actually think about upcycling or making it potentially a business that you could grow out of this. I mean, a lot of the things that I'm working on right now personally is about creating opportunities for students to do stuff. And I actually had a conversation with a design professor from Harvard last year before the pandemic started, and she was very interested in, dealing with the same issue about fast fashion. And her interest was to create more natural fashion design again. So she was working with, I think she started a company in New London. It's like Wool of New London or Wool Clothing of New London. And the whole idea was to actually use or graze sheep on old industrial spaces and have wool production and have a local wool production. Now, I could see how you could link this potentially to some interesting conversations. People might know remember from last time that I'm working quite a bit with the seaweed industry right now, and you can turn sugar kelp into textiles. And there could be a potential that I see is to maybe marry the idea of using wool, locally sourced wool, locally sourced seaweed texture, and create a new cloth that would be fully sustainable. Would you be interested in working on something like that?
Yeah, that does sound interesting, definitely, because it's very interesting, the whole sustainable textile idea, because they've tried a number of different things. So yeah, that definitely sounds really interesting.
Because there would be funding available to do this. We have the Project Blue team this summer, and we can actually have the summer funding and potentially have a student team on it. So talk to Dr. X and talk to me. Maybe it could be a great idea to kind of play around with. And we do have the pitch competition coming up in April. So if you could turn this into a pitch, and depending if that would turn into something, you could get $3,000 worth of summer funding to work on the project. And then if it turns into something, create a business, study it further in graduate school. We hope that we can create opportunities like this for all of our students. It's obviously difficult to do, but this seems to just be a natural fit. So thank you for being here. Any other questions, any comments you want to make?
I do not. Look out for the surveys when we do the research.
Wonderful, yes. So please support her in the research when the research comes aboard. And then we are, I think, close to the end of the 45 minutes to an hour, roughly what we're playing around with here. And I'm going to have Scott here again. Thank you, Scott, for lending us your fireplace yet once again, and appreciate it. Any comments from you?
You're very welcome. Well, this is always fun. Not exactly sustainable having the gas fireplace going on.
But it does take the tight little nip out of the air that I have with the door that was open.
Yeah, when the
earlier.
windows are open, doors open. No, it's a beautiful day today, and we've had a lot of fun in the planning of this. That was pretty hilarious.
We were sitting on the deck. So actually, this is a really good spot to stop, because it is such a nice day that I think everybody who's not already not watching should go and enjoy the outside.
It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful day, and stay tuned for the next Fireside Chat, which will be in whenever, few weeks, 2 weeks, I think. And it'll be with Dr. Russo Kelly. And I think she's going to bring Julia Stevenson along. And we're going to be talking about UN Sustainable Development Goals and an initiative that she's been working on since she came to Southern as a full-time faculty member last year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This is still running. Should we go out on the deck?
Oh no, because I don't have my thing on. I forgot.
It's still recording.
The coffee was nice, though.
I'm done. Oh, this one's really good.
Beautiful day. My frog pond. So there's zillions of bullfrogs out there. And there's ducks and geese and turtles hauled out on the rocks. I have my swing set. I just hope those ropes don't break.
I was on it earlier, so
I think I'd rather put a tire swing up.
it's fun.